All right, everybody, welcome back. We've wrapped up Unit 2, and now it's time to dive into Unit 3. This is just a picture I thought I should put up here so you had something to look at while I talk to you, but this is me at the age of 10. That's right, age of 10 in Anchorage, Alaska. And that's the largest fish I ever caught. So that's my big fish story. I caught a red salmon. As you see, it was over half my size, so I thought I would share that with you as we talk about what we're going to do next. Today, I want to review with you what you've learned in Unit 2 and set it up for the next couple of weeks for Unit 3. The chapter summary I asked you to complete in Unit 2, particularly from Chapter 3, focuses heavily on how journalists and media communicators write. The three essential principles of media writing are accuracy, brevity, and clarity, and today we'll explore why these principles matter so much. Media writing differs from other types of writing you might do in academic settings. Let's be honest. When you're given a 5 or 10 page paper to write, the temptation is to stuff as much content in there as possible, whether it's relevant or not. You write long, drawn out introductions explaining three different ways and generally try to fill space. That's just how we've been conditioned when it comes to academic writing. You're given a length requirement and your focus naturally shifts to meeting the length at the expense of substance. But when it comes to media writing, none of that applies. Here, you're looking like a SEAL Team 6 operative. You get in, deliver the necessary information quickly and effectively, and then get out. Length is irrelevant. Clarity, brevity, and accuracy are everything. You have to change your entire mindset. Instead of thinking about how much you can write, you need to think about how little you can write while still delivering the most essential information. This is especially important because as media communicators, we're not writing for academics or specialists. Our audience is the general public. While we can never underestimate the public's intelligence, we must keep in mind that most people don't have a college degree. Our job is to break down complex information into something that's understandable, digestible, and accessible for everyone, regardless of their background or education level. Let's break these three principles down a little more. First, accuracy is the foundation of all media writing. If you aren't accurate, you aren't credible. It's that simple. It doesn't matter how brief or clear your writing is if the facts are wrong. Even something as small as a misspelled name or a misquoted number can cost you your credibility. You might think it's a minor error, but to your audience, it signals that you can't be trusted. And as soon as you lose their trust, they'll stop reading or listening. In journalism, trust is everything. For example, if you're reporting on a press conference where the government official discusses the president dropping out of the race, and you mistakenly report that they said the president was not fit to stay in the race, you just undermine the entire message. And worse, your audience will walk away with the wrong information, which could impact public perception and decision making. Accuracy is not negotiable. Next is brevity. In academic writing, the goal is often to expand on an idea, providing as much context and detail as possible. But in media writing, brevity is critical. People's attention spans are short, especially in today's world where information constantly competes for attention. You've got a small window to grab someone's attention and deliver their message before they move on to something else. In fact, research shows that the average reader spends only 15 seconds on an article before deciding whether to keep reading or move on. That's all the time you have to capture their interest and deliver the main point. So your writing needs to be tight. Every word counts. There's no room for fluff or unnecessary detail. You want to convey your message in the shortest amount of time possible while still being effective. Lastly, we have clarity. Clarity is about making your writing as easy to understand as possible. I'm going to say that one more time. Clarity is about making your writing as easy to understand as possible. This goes hand in hand with brevity. You don't want your audience to reread sentences or struggle to know what you're trying to say. Your goal is to make the information as clear and straightforward as possible. The more accessible your writing is, the better your audience will grasp the message. For instance, when summarizing a complex topic like healthcare policy, you want to avoid using jargon or technical language that might confuse your audience. Instead, break it down into simple terms. If the Affordable Care Act is being discussed, explain it in everyday language. The Affordable Care Act, commonly known as Obamacare, is a law that helps ensure more Americans have health insurance. That is simple, clear, and to the point. When summarizing chapters or interviews, keep it simple, quick, and to the point. Remember, we're writing for the general public, not academics. Most of your audience does not have a college degree, so communicate on their level. Simplify, be direct, and always make sure your facts are correct. Even something as small, once again, as a misspelled name can destroy your credibility, and it's not worth the risk. I noticed on several papers from Unit 2 that there were some inaccuracies and misspellings. These details matter. You've got to go back and review your work, whether it's self-editing or peer editing. A second pair of eyes can catch things that you might miss, especially after you've spent hours working on a piece. The goal is for someone who hasn't read the chapter or seen the interview to understand still everything you're talking about. That's where clarity comes into play. A key part of accuracy is being diligent in the fact checking. You can't rely solely on memory or assumptions. When you write about something, whether it's a statistic, a person's name, or a date, double check it. Look it up. Be sure it's right. In media writing, there's no such thing as close enough. If a number is wrong, even by a small margin, it's bad. And if a name is misspelled, it's wrong. Okay, and it could cost you deeply. These details may seem minor, but they can completely undermine your audience's trust in your writing. Now, about AP style. I understand this might be confusing because you're used to thinking about style as margins, fonts, title pages, or formatting. However, the AP style or Associated Press style is all about how we handle things like names, dates, and numbers in media writing. I've given you a template for this class with the standard formatting, single space, no indents, short paragraphs, but that's just a class format. AP style refers to everything within the text, like how we write dates and handle numbers. For example, if I'm talking about Valentine's Day this year, I'd write Feb 14 with the month abbreviated. But if I'm referring to Valentine's Day 1975, it would be Feb 14, 1975. That goes for numbers. Anything under 10 is spelled out, but number 10 and above are written as numerals. There are exceptions like sports scores, which are always written as numerals regardless of size. AP style exists to create consistency across media outlets. It may seem like a small thing, but consistency is how you write numbers, dates, and titles contributes to the professionalism and readability of your work. When it comes to names, AP style requires that the first time you mention someone, you give them their full name and title. For example, Mayor Pete Buttigieg or U.S. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg. After the first reference, you can drop the first name and use the last name, Buttigieg. The idea is to introduce the reader to the person first. And once they know who you're talking about, then there's no need to keep repeating the full name. One more thing to note about names: consistency is key. If you spell something one way at the beginning of your article, you can't switch it up halfway through. That applies to everything from names to the term COVID-19, not COVID, not COVID days. It's COVID-19 or Super Bowl. Okay, you wouldn't say the bowl, you'd say the Super Bowl if that's what you're talking about. If you're unsure, look it up in your AP style book or use a trusted resource, a trusted source for proper spelling and usage. Let's talk about voice. Active versus passive. If we aim for it in media writing, that means excuse me, let's talk about voice. Active voice is what you aim for in media writing. The media should structure sentences where the subject performs the action. For example, instead of saying the flag design was approved by Mayor Tannehill, you'd say Mayor Tannehill approved the flag design. It's more precise, more direct, and keeps your writing concise. Active voice also makes your writing stronger. It places the responsibility for the action directly on the subject, which helps the reader follow the story more easily. In contrast, passive voice can make the sentence feel clunky and indirect. Passive constructions often require more words, making it harder for the reader to understand what is doing what. The more you practice using active voice, the more natural it will become in your writing. For example, instead of writing the report was written by the journalist, you would write the journalist wrote the report. Clarity is critical in media writing, and the active voice helps you achieve that. When you're writing a news summary or an interview summary, remember that the story isn't the interview itself. The story is the information that came out of the interview. After you mention that the interview took place, focus entirely on the facts learned, not the interview process. All right, folks, let's jump right in. Here's what's happening, and we'll lay it out clear from the start. You got assignments coming up, and it's time to get after them. First, let's talk about the who, what, when, where, why, and how of the news. You want to be active in your writing, avoid passive voicing, get straight to the point. We're not here to dance around it. Make it sharp, make it flow. Now, something to keep in mind: contractions are totally okay. We're not writing stuffy academic papers here, so if he's or they've makes sense and it sounds natural, use it. You don't need to be overly formal. Let the words breathe. Keep the rhythm going. We're all about making the writing clear, tight, and easy to read. You don't need to go as far as in abbreviations like LOL or BRB, but feel free to relax with your tone. This week, your focus is on two things. First, I want you to reflect on the interview assignment. How did it go? What felt difficult? What felt natural? Did anything throw you off, or did you find something surprisingly fun? Let's talk about the work and let's talk about what worked and what didn't. This is due Friday, so dive in and get the conversation going. I want to hear from you so I can see where you're at and help smooth out any bumps along the way. Your second assignment: summarize chapter 4. But as this is key, don't summarize the entire chapter. Once again, don't summarize the entire chapter. You're only tackling the part that deals with what makes news news. What makes something newsworthy? How do you decide what the public will care about? When you're watching an interview or gathering a story, you're asking yourself these questions. What's the most important detail for the media? Chapter 4 walks you through that. It's your job this week to break it down to the point where it starts talking about interviewing. Um, we'll handle that part separately later on. Now look ahead this week to next week. Here's what's on deck. You have two more interview assignments, one rewrite and one new write. For the rewrite, I want you to go back to your Buttigieg interview summary, rewatch it, read my notes. talk think about what you talked about to your coworker, excuse me, to your classmates, or just to yourself, and write a new draft. Now listen, don't just tweak the old draft. You're better off starting from scratch. Use your original as a reference if you need to, but after going through these past few weeks, you're a sharper writer now than you were then. Trust that and go fresh. I'll be grading this one harder and looking for growth. The second part of next week's assignment, a new interview summary. This time, we're switching it up a little bit with something fun. An interview between Anderson Cooper and Kevin Hart for 60 minutes. So you'll have a rewrite of Buttigieg and a first draft of Kevin Hart interview. It has the same style and approach, but with a mix of serious and lighthearted content. To sum it all up, these are two assignments due this Friday. There are two assignments due this Friday. Your reflection of the interviews and the chapter 4 summary. Then two more due next Friday, a rewrite of Buttigieg summary and a new write-up for Cooper, for the Anderson Cooper Kevin Hart interview. And remember, folks, deadlines are deadlines. Anything turned in after Friday at 11:59 p.m. gets a 0. You got this all laid out in front of you, crystal clear. Keep working, keep improving, and don't hesitate to reach out if something's not making sense. You're doing great, but we're going to keep raising the bar. What's great now you won't cut it in a month. You're growing as a writer with each assignment, and that's what I want to see. Stay safe, take care, and keep moving forward. Peace.